Welcome to Tales from the Switch Vault, where I, Jim, look back at some of the weird and wonderful games from the Nintendo Switch. This time, I hide the evidence, Serial Cleaner. Released on Xbox, PS4 and PC in July 2017, the game was ported to Switch later that year in November before ending up on mobile. Created by Polish studio Draw Distance, it joined the Switch's early burgeoning indie slate with the likes of Cat Quest, VVVVV and Stardew Valley all releasing around this time. A single-player isometric stealth game set in the 1970s, players must clear levels of evidence without being spotted by the authorities. You play as the cleaner and must sneak around murder scenes, collecting evidence, picking up and disposing of bodies. He's pretty cool and has an excellent mustache. In later levels, you must also clean up a certain percentage of blood, charmingly using an old vacuum cleaner. To thwart your plan, guards walk around with a field of vision. If you get spotted, they will chase you down, whereupon they will hit you with a rather comedic thwack to knock you out. This causes the level to reset, including the location of the bodies and evidence. You can hide in cupboards or between barrels to avoid detection. Careful though, as walking or vacuuming creates noise that also alerts them. The blood and evidence is usually pretty easy to sort out. It's the bodies that pose the most challenge here, as they must be disposed of in a certain place. Either it's the back of the car, your starting spot, or in an incinerator or something along the same lines somewhere within the map. Even though it's not the most complicated game in the world, it still teaches the mechanics well in the opening levels. Visually, I really like how it looks. It's really charming. Stylized art, all angles and exaggerated features. Really reminds me of Hitchcock's Vertigo film poster, particularly with the font. Actually, they go all out for the bonus stage font, a great homage to the original movies they're actually based on, although more on that later. The concise UI works really well. You can zoom out for the full view of the area with everything clearly labelled and allowing you to plot a route through. My favourite part is the art for each chapter level, and they look great. Serial Cleaner's music is really good, a mixture of creations from a bunch of different musicians. Proper odes to the 70s, it's really funky. I particularly like the main theme, music to hide dead bodies to. Give me more of that sax! I suppose the main hook beyond it being a good stealth puzzle game is that the story is subtle and builds as the game goes. It's pretty clever and obvious in hindsight, which I won't spoil here, but it pays off well enough in the end. Seeing this kid who still lives with his mother have the banality of home life against his lack of squeamishness to the gruesome reality of cleanups is quite jarring. However, the real meat here are the levels, and they don't really progress much by the end in terms of complexity. It's more about extra bodies and guards to deal with, but it still gives you a sense of challenge. At launch, there were slim pickings for stealth games on the Switch, so this was actually worth a pickup. Mind, it's still pretty simplistic. Just avoid the fields of vision by standing around the corner or diving into a hiding spot. You're meant to slowly creep around and grab what you can. Difficulty depends on where the bodies have been placed. Picking one up slows you down even further, which can cause some mad dashes to safety after dropping a corpse. During my research for this video, I read a lot of comparisons to the excellent Hotline Miami, which with its isometric view and lots of blood are the only real comparisons to Serial Cleaner. That game is a hyper-violent, garish, neon drug-induced rampage. Serial Cleaner is far slower paced and laid back, more likely to raise an eyebrow than a full-on sweat. The game launched as complete and has about 5 or so hours gameplay here. It's about the right length as it's a one and done game. There are additional challenge modes and timers and such, but nothing really to appeal to most people. The collectibles are a little different though. You can collect magazines that give you more clothing options. But what I really love is getting all the film reels that are scattered throughout a few levels. Gather these and they open a whole host of new levels based on movies. This is a really nice touch, pushing a bit more of the potential of this title. Shoutouts to the Alien level. The studio was founded as iFun for All in 2009 by none other than Polish developer Bloober Team, who had listed on the stock exchange in 2016 and still owns over 30% of the company. Renamed Draw Distance in 2019, the company is most known for its visual novel titles of Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York and Shadow of New York. Bafflingly, I completely missed that they launched the sequel Serial Cleaners in 2022 on the Switch and other consoles. Now set in the 1990s with multiple player characters, it'll be interesting to see how they progress the Serial Cleaner formula. With no awards to speak of, I had to delve into reviews and they were generally okay for Switch, but were a bit more mixed on other platforms. I really thought this was an underrated title, but with the bar of indie quality raised so high now, I think good game is a fair assessment. Being an early release on the Switch will have helped, though I suppose only having one way to complete each level would have held it back in the wider view. In hindsight, I absolutely adored this game. It was very charming and fun to play. Coming back many years later though, and it's lost its shine a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I still like it. It looks great and the short levels provide enough entertainment. I would criticise it for the weird choice of resetting bodies and evidence when you get caught. I assume this is to stop players getting stuck with a difficult layout, but then you can just spam it until it's easy. More variety on how you deal with bodies would have been a great addition. Whether looking a sale as stealth games are your thing, it stands out for the looks alone. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more weekly Nintendo Switch video game essays. Now, I better crack on cleaning up in cereal cleaners.